We're starting the Maamar today on page 395, a new Maamar. Let's see if we can finish this before the Kolel Zman ends, Tisha B'Av time. Okay. Beis Samach Daled, with the help of Hashem, Yom Daled, Wednesday, Chav Gimel Tammuz, the 23rd of Tammuz, which happens to be this coming week, in 3 days. Tafresh Tzadik Aleph, 1931, Varsha. The previous Rebbe was in Warsaw at the time, on his way to a vacation area, a resort area for good health that he needed, the good air and good health. And in the parentheses it says, Koidem HaNesiya. The Rebbe said this discourse, this Maamar, before he traveled Lemarimband. When I was on a stopover several years ago on the way to Eretz Yisrael in Germany, I took a train somewhere and I looked up and I saw that an upcoming station is called Marienband. Marienband. Marienband was a very popular spot for Rebbes and Rosh Yeshiva, and other people as well, but many Rebbes and Rosh Yeshiva made their part or all of their summer stay in Marienband. There was a hotel, several actually, but one in particular that a friend of mine's grandparents owned it. They live here. The grandson, who's my friend, lives here in Borough Park, and you could find there Rabbi Meir Shapiro, because he passed away I think a little later. And you could find the Munkacher Rebbe. You can find there the Litvische Rosh Yeshivas. It was really a who's who of Judaism, of Torah scholarship Judaism and Chassidus in Marienband. So the previous Rebbe had different places that he traveled to for good air. One of the places was Marienband. He had a few other places. One was, another place was called, I think, Druzenik, which was a suburb with good air and environment in the Lithuanian area. But this was, I believe, in Germany. So he says, Kaidem HaNesiya Marienband, before he went to Marienband, the train, I guess, stopped in Varsha, in Warsaw, because remember, he didn't move to Warsaw till 1933, and this is still 1931. Tzlacha, which refers to Hatzlacha, with success. And this is the Maamar that he said there. Liolom Yehei Adam Zoyir B'Tfilas Mincha. It says, the Gemara says, a person should always be careful with which tefillah, the prayer of Mincha. Shaharei Eliyahu Leinena Ela B'Tfilas Mincha. Why? Why should you be particular with davening Mincha? Because Eliyahu HaNavi was only answered when he prayed to Hashem because of Mincha. Shenemar, the proof is, it says in Melachim Aleph, Kings 1, chapter 18, Vayehi ba'aleisa Mincha, it was when Mincha came, the time of Mincha came, Vayigash Eliyahu HaNavi, and Eliyahu HaNavi approached Hashem, Vayoymar, and he said, Begoymer, etc., Aneni Hashem Aneni, answer me, God, answer me. That's a tefillah, that's a prayer. And it says it was around what time? Ba'aleis HaMincha. Mincha time. Aneni, why did he say twice Aneni? The Gemara says, Aneni sheteire deish min hashamayim. There should descend a fire from heaven. V'aneni shlo yoimru maisek shofim heim. And he pleads with Hashem to answer his prayers, that people should not say this was magic, maisek shofim, magic that he did. In other words, Eliyahu Hanavi was asking Hashem that this is the story over there in Tanakh, with the, who knows the details? Moshe, you know the details? Hillel?
Yeah, there's the story when he had his fake. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, Hillel, you say. Go ahead.
Many of the Jewish people were involved in Avodas Habal, and there were the priests of Baal at Har Carmel, and Eliyahu went and challenged them to a spiritual duel, shall we say, and that they would bring a korban and he would bring a korban, and we see and which one would have a fire come down from heaven and so on, and it ended up being a great Kiddush Hashem, and the people killed many of the Kohanim of Baal, and that's
right. Okay,
so that's the story.
Thank you. Mute your mic. Thank you very much, Hillel. So the Gemara says. So the first thing, Eliyahu Navi asked of Hashem is, I need a fire to come down. If no fire is coming down, I'll be left standing like I'm a charlatan, I'm a fake. And then he said, Yoni, even if a fire comes down, like Hillel just said, right, to prove that Hashem is what's good and right, and not the Baal, the idol, the Baal. Wait a minute. Who says someone won't say that this is kishuf, that this is magic? Just yesterday, my wife and I were learning, reading and learning a story of the Alter Rebbe, where such a thing happened. The Alter Rebbe came to a city, and in the city there was a known magician, a mechashev, okay? And the Alter Rebbe performed some kind of miracle, and then there was a whole question whether the Alter Rebbe, was accused of doing kishuf, or maybe maybe really the magician did it and not the Alter Rebbe. My point being that Eliyahu Hanavi asked Hashem, part of his tefillah was that when you do send the fire to consume my sacrifice, proving that Hashem is right and not the idolatry, the idol, I want make sure people don't think it's magic, because magic is forbidden. Magic is no good. Magic is wrong. So this and his tefillah was answered. These were his two requests, and both were answered because he davened ba'alos hamincha. So this is the Gemara's proof that when you daven for things at mincha time, your prayers are answered. Okay? And I think it's a pretty clear Gemara. Comes along the Frierdiker Rebbe and asks, what's the advantage of mincha al tefillah shachris v'arvis over shachris and ma'ariv? Simple question. Why? Why mincha? V'hagam the Gemara shom hinei Rabbi Yochanan v'Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak sfira lahu. Although if you look further into the Gemara over there, the Gemara in Brocha says that Rabbi Yochanan and Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak, they hold, their opinion is the Av B'Tfilas Ma'ariv Shachris Ukein. They say, it's not just mincha time, but when you daven to Hashem at Shachris and Arvis and Ma'ariv, your prayers are also answered. Umikol Makoim Hine Eliyahu Nena B'Tfilas HaMincha. Eliyahu answered B'Tfilas HaMincha. Do you guys hear me well?
Very.
Very well. Clear.
Okay.
I can hear you, but it's not very loud.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying I'm switching my thing. I don't know if I go to the right or the left. Is it better now?
It's better now.
Okay. Good. So this is a rhetorical question in the Gemara of the Friedrich Rebbe. If you look into the Gemara there's opinion of two sages who say, no, you don't have to do it only at Mincha. You're also answered at Shachris and Ma'ariv. The Rebbe's response, his retort to the rhetorical question is, Umikol Mokoy, nevertheless, Hinelayo, and then the Betfilas HaMincha. He says, thank you, rabbis, for your opinion. But the fact is, when was Eliyahu's prayers answered? At Mincha time. You understand? Whether or not you're also answered at Shachris and Ma'ariv, the opinion of those two sages is you do. Great. But the fact is, when did the story with Eliyahu happen? Mincha time. So the Rebbe's question is, what's the specialty of Mincha? Even if we were to say that your prayers are also answered another time, the fact is, it says in Tanakh, it says, Ba'alos HaMincha. Why does the pasuk in Malachim emphasize Ba'alos HaMincha? In other words, Yoni, if there's no difference between Mincha, Ma'ariv, Shachris, and Mincha, then don't say Alos HaMincha. He prayed to Hashem and he was answered. Finished. Obviously, if the pasuk makes an emphasis to say Ba'alos HaMincha, it was during Mincha time, there's something significant and special about Mincha that the other two times don't have. And the Rebbe's question is, what is that? Move on. The tefillas mincha he gavoy b'maylo madrega al tefillas the shachas v'avos. From this we understand that mincha is greater in level over tefillas shachas and arvos. For tzarech loving we must understand yisrin mailas tefillas hamincha al shachas. What's the advantage mincha has over shachas? What's his question? That shachas tefillah arucha mi yoser. Hey, takes us a half an hour to 45 minutes to daven Shachris. Hopefully we're not doing a zip car express train Shachris of 20 minutes. Or actually 13 minutes of Shomer Shabbos, the first minyan. Pre-dawn is a 13-minute minyan. If you haven't experienced it and you won some Brooklyn and Borough Park or anywhere, it takes there's no traffic about 5 in the morning. So you can come from Manhattan to here in about 15 minutes. Without breaking the law. Anyway, so do yourself a favor and come in just to witness. Don't daven with them because you won't be able to. But just see how they do it. You won't believe it. I don't know. Is there such a minyan in all of Eretz Yisrael? I don't know. But, this is literally 13 minutes. And I think I told you I had to daven once or twice with that minyan because I was flying somewhere and I would miss this Mount Tefillah and there wouldn't be another minyan. And they said to me, you can only daven for the Amud. I had yahrzeit. You can only daven for the Amud if you do it in 13 minutes. If not, sorry, you can't go to the Amud. This precedes everything. 13 minutes. It's called 13-minute Judaism. Okay. So the Rebbe says here, but normal people who don't daven for 13 minutes from the beginning of Hoidu till after Aleinu, tefillah arucha yoser. It's a longer tefillah, because by the way, it takes more than 13 minutes to daven mincha, especially if you daven the 120 Eish Kodesh minyan, it takes a few extra minutes. So the point being, if you want to talk about davening, you want to talk about praying, you want to talk about pleading to Hashem, show me your fire and consume it and everything else, then when should he have prayed? Specifically, Shachris time. There's more time to daven, there's more time to kvetch, there's more time to cry, there's more time to laugh, there's more time to kippers, to drink coffee. It's a hangout. Shachris. That's one of the beauties of Shachris and Shuls. You come in, you sit down, you drink a coffee, you chit-chat, and then you start davening. Minchas chat shtayim shalosh. 1, 2, 3, in and out. So that's his question. Why does Shachris take longer? Because there is Psuki de Zimbra, verses of praise. That's quite a bit. You got Hallelujah this, Hallelujah that, Hallelujah. Uvichas Krishma, and then we have the brachas of Krishma, talking about angels, the Srafim, Chayas, these angels, that angels, and it's a whole scene with the angels. And then you have Krishma, Shema, come on, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and you stop and think. You don't just put your hand over your head, your eyes, and take it away. Say, oh, how long did that take? 30 seconds or 20 or 45 seconds? You're not a yekka. You're a litvak, or you're a regular litvak, or a regular chassid, or a regular svarda guy. You don't count the seconds. The point being, all of this takes time. Mashen came betfilas mincha. Conversely, during mincha time, shehi tfilas shmon esrei b'levad. Mincha is chatztayim shalosh 1, 2, 3. Shmon esrei. Of course, Ashrei and Tachnon, if you say Tachnon, around here they don't say Tachnon pretty much. All Hasidic shuls around here, we cut Tachnon. It's one of the biggest things I have with these guys when I daven in their shuls, and I daven regular in their shuls during the week. Why the heck do you cut Tachnon? I said, you didn't sin today? I know I sinned. Well, why did you say Tachnon? Well, it's Friday. The new thing I learned this year is, Friday and Sunday, no Tachnon. Why? Friday's preparation for Shabbos, and Sunday is after Shabbos. So Friday, Sunday, you get a freebie. Then comes Monday through Thursday, so at least one, if not 2 days of the week in the shul I'm davening now, and I won't mention which Hasidic group it is, because they're really fine guys. I love going there. They get cut tachnon, and every day after Shemoneh Esrei, the chazan turns around, looking for someone to tell him, please, cut tachnon, say kaddish. And, and it boils my blood, but, I'm not going to change it, and it's not my place, and it's their custom. So when we get to kibbutz, I let them know what I think, and how ridiculous it is.
That's Shachris, Rabbi? That's a Shachris?
That's Shachris. That's Shachris every during the week.
Wow.
Mincha, everyone is dead. Mincha, everyone's dead, because Mincha, there's a yard site every day of some Rebbe or Rabbi, so everyone's dead at Mincha time, so you don't say Tachnon.
Yeah, okay.
But Shachris, they would really do that, but, they have a guy like Chaim Dalfin in the base of Medrash who knows it's going to give them hell if they do that. So therefore, they're a little more, they'll say 1 or 2 days of Tachnon. But the Rebbe's point here is, all kidding aside, the Rebbe's point is that Mincha time, he says there's only Shemoneh Esrei, right? You probably ask yourself, wait a minute, there's Ashrei before, and no one cuts that, right? Because that's about bread and butter, that's about money, parnasa. We're not going to cut out we need money in the bank to drive our Lexus up to the country. So that they're not cutting out. But he implies like Tachnon, there's no Tachnon. And believe me, Lubavitch Minhag is not this way. We say Tachnon every day. In fact, except of course a holiday or a Hasidic holiday, but and even on a yard site, Minhag Chabad is to say Tachnon on a yard site. And there were times that on Yud Shvat, on the yard site of the previous Rebbe, and so the day the Rebbe became Rebbe, so there were some Hasidim that because they were so happy the Rebbe became Rebbe, it's their Rebbe, they didn't want to say Tachnon then. And they tried playing around, doing the same shtick. And the Rebbe started to say Tachnon, and all of a sudden the Chazan starts saying Yizgadal v'Yizkadash, and the Rebbe turned around with a very serious face to Rabbi Groner, like why are they not saying Tachnon? And Groner, in the beginning, he didn't know himself. He didn't tell them not to say Tachnon. And later on, what he did is, because there was some chevra, who were like hotheads, and they didn't want Tachnon to be said that day, because it's Yud Shvat, the Rebbe became Rebbe, and they were putting the focus on that versus the yard site of the previous Rebbe. So they had a chassan stand next to the chazan, to the Baal Tefillah. So when the Rebbe would turn around, Rabbi Groner would point to the chassan. In other words, because it's a chassan and shul, we're exempt from Tachnon. The point being Lubavitch, Chabad, takes very seriously the saying of Tachnun. But here in the Maamar, the Rebbe is making comparison. It's not that there's no Tachnun and no Ashrei. Of course there is. But if you compare the Ikar, what's the Ikar of Mincha? The Ikar of Mincha is Shmon Esrei. What's the Ikar of Shachris? Not just Shmon Esrei. There's 4 steps. You know the Kabbalah steps. The Kabbalah says it's a 4-step ladder. There is Psukei de Zimra as the first. Next comes Birchas Krishma. Next comes Krishma. Next comes the Shmon Esrei, the Amida. You got to go up the steps. And we discussed this. If you skip a step, you can fall down and break your leg. So don't skip steps.
Rabbi.
Yes.
Rabbi, I would tell these guys in Armenian that the Ikar of the Shachris is Tachanun. see what reaction you get.
Well, I tell them that. I say, you didn't sin? That's what I say to them. You didn't sin that you're not saying Tachnun? Yeah. You know, just for another moment, you know, all kidding aside, this actually happened. Once the previous Rebbe came to the yeshiva in Warsaw or Tzfok, his own yeshiva. You know, he lived elsewhere in those areas, but he didn't daven in the yeshiva every day. And when he came to the yeshiva, the Bochurim and the Bochurim, the students said, you know, the Rebbe's here, let's not say Tachnun. And remember, these were they were all Polish boys. This is pre-war. So the minhag in Poland, don't think this minhag started here. This is a carryover from Poland. Again, I'm not sure if it was so extreme that they never said Tachnun, but, you know, there's no question that they were more lenient in not saying Tachnun. Anyway, so they didn't say Tachnun because the Rebbe came to daven with them. So the Rebbe asked Rabbi Zalman Garari, who was the Menahel, a teacher in the yeshiva, administrator, principal. So he said, the reason we're not saying Tachnun is because the Rebbe is davening with us. That's what he said. So the Rebbe said to him, when the Rebbe comes to a yeshiva, it's not a reason not to say Tachnun. It's a reason not to do a sin. You understand? But the fact is, you've all done sins. We've all done sins. So we need to say Tachnun even though I'm here. Okay, but the point I think is clear. Let's continue. So his question, he's in the middle of saying, so since Mincha only has Shmon Esrei as the thrust of Mincha, compared to Shachris, which has 4 parts, why is it that we choose, that Eliyahu Hanavi chose Mincha as the prayer to have Hashem answer him? That's the question. V'hinei, continue. B'tfila harikol Yisro, Hinei b'tfila harikol Yisro shovin heima. When it comes to davening, we're all the same. And this is different than the study of Torah. Why? When you learn Torah, there are different levels in the knowledge of Torah. In the matters of the revealed part of Torah, there are people who learn who are called masters of the Torah. They really have a handle on the Torah learning. And then there are those individuals who, when it comes to the esoteric part of Torah, who are called Morei or Rozin, masters of the esoteric, of the secrets. They know the Roz. And the Rebbe says, but you can even go further. There is even greater people who know more Torah, v'heim, and they're called Bale or Rozen de Rozen. They are master of secrets within secrets. V'heim b'shnei ponim. And this is expressed in 2 ways. Ha'echod, one, chol ha'inyonim shebegal yeshebetoidom, all ideas within the revealed Torah, harehem yoidim inyonim mipnimis haTorah. They know and understand the revealed Torah from pnimis haTorah, from their knowledge of the esoteric. Shehu inyan limut haTorah. This is the manner and style of learning Torah, kameshahu, as it is b'masifta derekia, in the heavenly yeshiva, uvehecholis the Gan Eden, and in the chambers of Gan Eden. And if the previous Rebbe writes this, you all understand that he tasted it. Okay? You and I can't write this. I mean, maybe we can say we heard or, we saw, but to me it seems like the previous Rebbe had a good understanding of the way they learn in heaven, because he was a master of Rosen de Rosen, the secrets within the secrets. The point being, what's the point, Yoni? How is it relevant to our Maamar here? That they're different amount of knowledge that people have when they learn Torah. The whole halacha v'halacha shalaim de matam. These people who are masters of the secrets, every halacha they learn here, in below on earth in Shulchan Aruch, hare halacha zu mamish. This very halacha, Laimdim b'Mesifta Derekia, is also learned in the heavenly Mesifta, yeshiva. Ella, Zel b'Madregas Ruchniya. The way it's learned there, Moshe, is in spiritual terms. Tilamayla, because in heaven above, Hare lo yesh dvorim hagashmiyim. You don't have physical matter. Ella, Shakoil hu beruchnius. Everything there is spiritual. So when we say that we're learning, there's a yeshiva in heaven learning the same ideas, of course, but it's the ruchnius, the spirituality of the same idea. And here below, the Torah that we're learning below, the Shnayim Oichzim Betalis, he gives us a beautiful example. There is a Gemara, two people are holding a talis. It's a Mishnah, page 396, top of the page. You guys all learned this Gemara, right? It's in which tractate? Come on, let's go. Be brave. Tractate Bava Metzia. One says, I found this talus. And the other one says, I found the talus. The question is, who does the talus belong to? And this halacha, we learn this halacha in the heavenly yeshiva. The question is now, how do we understand this halacha in heaven? Hine talis upridus makif. Now listen to this. It's fascinating and an insight into the heavenly yeshiva. The Rebbe is taking us for a ride into heaven. Gird your belt and get ready. Up we go. The talis is a makif. A talis, it surrounds you. It's makif, right? That's the bracha. Why do we make, what's the bracha, Moshe? Lehisateif bat tzitzis. Lehisateif atifa. We are encamped, and it's surrounded by the talis. It's a makif. V'hu besoid hanitzoitzos shenoflu b'shviras hakelim. Kabbalah says it's so, this esoteric, the secret idea of the talis is, in general, there are sparks that fell through the shattering of the vessels, which we discussed many times, and I don't want to discuss it now. At this point, after 3 years learning Chassidus, I expect you to know the idea of Shviras HaKelim, the breaking of the vessels, where the energy of Hashem, the Or, was overwhelming for the recipients, for the Kelim, the vessels, and the Kelim shattered and broke. What happened to the chips of the Kelim? It fell all over like a glass that breaks. It flies all over. Well, guess what? It comes, the spiritual energy shattered and broke and flew all over into all of Gashmias. All material physical matter has a chip, has a spark, has a piece of that broken glass, that spiritual broken glass. So, the kasha shnayim oichsim b'talas achas, when two people are holding one talis and one's pulling it, it's mine, and the other one says it's mine. Hainu kasha shtei neshama is bitter nitzutz echad. The spiritual meaning means two souls come and say, I have extracted the spark and I made the spark be godly. The spark was mundane or worse, and I took that apple and I made a bracha, and through that I sanctified the apple, and the spark was extracted back to its source. Whoever's on, please turn off your mic. V'hu kasha shnayim osu mitzvah achas. This means when two people do a mitzvah, bepidyin shvuyim, redeeming a captive. Moshe gives money to take someone out of jail, and Hillel gives money. After 120, they come before Hashem and they say, I did the mitzvah. It's my money that got him out of jail. And the other one says, no, it's my money that got him out of jail. What is beruchnis? What's stucca beruchnis? Moshe Meyer is very important. What does it mean? Spiritual charity. Spiritual. The guy from Mincha Torah says, I made this guy a Baal Tshuva. The Chabadnik says, no, I made him a Baal Tshuva. And the Or Sameach guy says, I made him a Baal Tshuva. Who gets the credit? That's the question. Two people are fighting over one talis. Two people are fighting over one godly experience that was in a place of no good, of problems, of darkness, and was brought back to Yiddishkeit. And each one says, I did it. Let's continue inside. V'chol echod min hashamis toyanim, and each one of these souls. Remember, we're in heaven now. We've been taken into heaven, so the souls are talking to each other. Each one of the souls says, they toyanim, they argue, they position. Ze oimer ani matzisiha. He says, I found this soul. Hainu shuhoitzis anitzutz min aklipa vikula sheli. He says, I took this spark out of the negativity, out of the klipa, v'hu kula sheli, right? Because the Gemara says there in Bava Metzia, this one says, the talis is all mine. And this one says it's all mine. And they're holding the talis. And they're arguing. Hopefully they don't tear the talis apart. So each one says about the neshama that has returned to Hashem vis-a-vis the kiruv that each one did for this neshama. I did it. It's because of me. V'hu kula sheli. And the second neshama argues, Ani mitzasiya. I found it. I found the soul lost in darkness, v'kula sheli, and I made it. It's all mine. The Rebbe says this is the debate called Shakla V'Tarya in the heavenly yeshiva. Befrotis halacha zu, regarding this halacha. Here finishes the Rebbe's description of a Mishnah in Gemara, how we understand this Mishnah in spiritual terms in the Mesifta Derekia. Now we're going back down to earth. When do they have this argument? Yoni. When they're both called, this is a halacha, they're called muchuzakim. They're both holding it. If one was holding the talis, and Moshe, and the other one just said, wasn't holding it, but just said, it's my talis, he wouldn't have a standing chance to get the talis or part of the talis, the worth of the talis. You have to be muchzak. This is a halacha. You have to hold on to it. This is, in halacha terms, you have to be muchzak. That's what it says here. Kleima, the aim, now he's going to explain it in spiritual terms. The aim is when do you refine the sparks in the talis? When you work with the talis, when you put the talis on. This is referring back. He's going back and forth from the halacha to the spiritual. The Gemara says, Hillel, over there, Riya ba'alma. If you look, Riya, if you see, ba'alma, just in general, seeing the talus, so you say, hey, that talus over there, that's my talus. Sorry, chap, you lost. You're not getting any of the talus. You know why? You didn't hold it. Riya ba'alma loy kani. Kani means acquire. It's not an acquisition. Halachically, you have to hold the item. You can pontificate from today, tomorrow. With the best arguments, you ain't getting the talus. Just by seeing and philosophizing and being a chacham and making your finger this way, making your finger that way, it won't help you. You have to hold on to the talus. Kloimar, what does this mean in spiritual terms? Oh, so he says that you have to actually take the spark, make a brach on the talus, make a brach on the apple, take your car and give someone a ride. Then your car becomes, like I used to train my children growing up, it's not a car, it's a mitzvah mobile. Mitzvah mobile. And that's the way my children went to yeshiva every morning, with a mitzvah mobile. So you got to use that mobile for a mitzvah. That's the idea of bavoida bepoil. But by just seeing it, you don't acquire it. Says the Rebbe, this type of learning is with every halacha. Isn't that fascinating? Could you imagine, Moshe, if we knew so many more halachas the way they're studied in Gan Eden? I think many more Jews would gravitate to halacha because they don't see it as, I can't turn on the lights, I can't eat pork, I can't do this and I can't do that. They would see it as, wow, what an experience between souls. It would be an uplifting experience. That's why you have to share with people, Moshe, when you teach them, especially beginners, the fascinating insight of what happens spiritually when you do a mitzvah, when you learn some Torah. You know, it's not just about you can or you can't, the do and don'ts. Because that, for many people, or maybe most people, in the beginning, doesn't talk to them. They're not into that. But if you talk about spirituality, I was reading yesterday some of Shlomo Carlebach, someone sent me a manuscript to look over, and I see he used stories, beautiful stories, as an introduction to so many things. He enticed the listener. And you're talking about here in the 70s, and at the times when people were, all over, and the Tshuva movement was taking off. And believe me, Shlomo Carlebach was given a chance to be the Rosh Hashiva in the Lubavitch Yeshiva, because I heard from a student who was there when he gave a shiur, and he said he couldn't believe it. He was quoting Rambams and Raavad verbatim. I mean, he was a massive Talmud Chacham. So, and he learned in Lakewood and Tervadas. I mean, he didn't have to spend his times in Berkeley, playing a guitar and telling stories and having people sit around. I mean, but he understood there's a talus out there, and I got to get this talus. So I got to go into the territory of the talus, and over there, he introduced Yiddishkeit and Torah through a story, through an anecdote. So, in a way, if we're learning here about, look at the Rebbe's words, V'chol dvar halacha, Moshe, every halacha began Eden, sha'alimedhu be'oimik u'bepnimis ha'inyonim. You study it deeply, meaning spiritually, what's its spiritual ramification, u'bepnimis ha'inyonim, what's its inner meaning? What's its inner meaning? Fine. Okay, so this is one point. Vasheni, the second point, sheyoidim umasigim pnimis ha'torah ba'soga gemura k'mei sogas advarim hanitfosim b'metzias dovama. The second thing is that you study the inner meaning of Torah with the same depth as you do things that are tangible. Nitfosim b'metzias, you can hold them. Yehine Okay, I'm going to stop here and continue tomorrow from here, but just to give you an introduction. The next point he's going to talk about is how ruchnius, spirituality, is a reality. It's not just a Baba Maisa, it's not just, a fantasy, but rather Pnimius HaTorah and the understanding of Pnimius HaTorah is real. And when you train yourself to look at halacha and Gemara and all of Torah this way, it only enhances your experience of halacha and Gemara. And I could tell you, listening to the Rebbe for 25 plus years of his Farbrengens and learning his Torah, this was a weekly, if not weekly, bi-weekly approach where he took a Gemara, he took halacha, he took a thing that we all, a minig, a Jewish custom, and he explored it from all avenues. And when he got to the esoteric and the inner dimension of that law and that Gemara, it was fascinating, just like it's fascinating here. I think you'll agree, this insight, the way the Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, touches upon it. Now, like I've told you before, there were people who were critical of this approach, okay? But today, the same people, they're already in Gan Eden, but the same yeshivas and the same movements today are doing something similar. I'm not going to say they're doing exactly the same, but they're doing something similar. What are they doing that's similar? They're reaching out and teaching Torah in a way that is palpable and accessible and relatable. That's the word I want. Relatable. How do you relate to the neshama? To the mind, you can go to Harvard and learn Talmud and be lahavdil a non-Jew or a non-religious Jew. How do you relate to the essence of a Jew? You have to touch the heart. You have to touch the neshama. Pnimius HaTorah, the inner dimension of Torah, does that. And just for the record, the Vilna Gaon wrote more Sfarim on Kabbalah than he did on Nigla. So anyone that says that first I need to learn Shas and all of that type of argument, just tell them that, ask them, did you know that the Vilna Gaon wrote more Sfarim on Kabbalah than on Gemara? And do you know that the Vilna Gaon writes in Mishlei, in his Pirush on Mishlei, in his commentary on Mishlei, he writes, someone who doesn't study the Pnimius HaTorah doesn't have a right to make a ruling, a psak din. That means you can be a rabbi with many smichas and a long beard and everything else, and if you don't learn Pnimius HaTorah according to the Vilna Gaon, not the Alter Rebbe, and not the Baal Shem Tov, according to the Vilna Gaon, and look it up if you don't believe me. I can give you the reference, not right now, I don't remember it, but I could find it for you. Because it's in my book, To Be Hasidic. In my book, To Be Hasidic, I have a section there on learning Hasidus, and over there I brought several references to the importance of learning Pnimius HaTorah. So when we learn this Maamar about the talis, and two people are wrangling over the talis, this isn't just a Chabad thing, a previous Rebbe thing. This is the reality of Torah on all levels. Now, of course, if you only do that and you don't learn about the halacha, the Gemara, and then the halacha, and it's like you're missing bread and butter. Bread and butter, right? That's, not butter, but bread. Pas b'melech, right? You live on bread and water, whatever. The basics. You must have the basics. So if someone says, I'm only going to learn Hasidus, I'm only going to learn Kabbalah. Sorry, chap, you're not doing what Hashem wants. Yes, Moshe.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, to qualify what you said, not to counter, I know that the Vilna Gaon, Kol HaTorah, all these things were very much into Kabbalah Zohar, but you said that he learned way more Kabbalah than, let's say... Not
learned. Moshe, not learned. He wrote more Sfarim on Kabbalah than on just regular Torah. Go ahead, continue.
Okay, good. Gotcha. Yeah. So in other words, he would have mastered Gemara. Obviously, he was a Talmud Chacham before or at least alongside of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, just from my own life, my first 20 years of my life, I spent learning mostly Gemara and Mefarshim, and then I started to delve into hours into Chassidus. 18 years of my life, whatever, 19 years. So in yeshiva, it's a lie. It's not true that. I used to spend. I was telling my wife to 2-3 in the morning learning every night, and I was learning Gemara. Yesterday, I'm not saying this now. I'm going to say it with pride, but it was. I was looking for a certain Gemara that I have in my head, but I don't know where it is. And I need it for a reference in something I'm writing. So I asked several people in shul and Talmidei Chachamim, and no one knew where it is. Finally, Shabbos day, I met someone who's a Lubavitcher, who's said to be a Baki and Shas. That's the word, okay? He's an 80-year-old man, and he's a very fine person. And I went over to him, and he said, it's in this tractate, it's in Yuma. I had remembered from my youth that it's Masechtas Pesachim, because the Gemara stood out. The Gemara, if you want to know what it is, the Gemara says, Shono Pirish, someone who learned Torah and then left Torah hates more Torah scholars than anyone else. Why? Because he knows that Torah scholars think of an ignoramus, which he is today compared to what he knew then. Now he hasn't learned in 30, 40 years. He left Torah, right? So he's ignorant compared to what, right? And he knows how when he was this is what Rashi says, when he was a Torah scholar, in that time, like this pre-Baal Shem Tov, there was a denigration of what? Of Amoratzim, of ignorant people. And he knows that, because that he remembers learning. So he can't stand Talmidei Chachamim. That's what the Gemara says. And I remember I learned in the Pesachim, but I didn't remember where. So when this Baki and Shas supposedly told me it's in Yuma, I said, could you show me? He says, I can't right now. I'll find that out and I'll tell you tomorrow. Whether he was, embarrassed to say he doesn't know, I don't know. It's not my business. At Mincha time, I was in shul, and I speak to a Baba Chassid, and he says, no, I don't know where it is. But he says, there's a book here, it's called the Michlal HaPizgamim. I think you guys have it in the Esha Kodesh library, Sfarim. It has all the Maamar Chazal, and you could find it through an index, whatever. Comes back, he says, here, it's Psachim, page 49, folio B. So I said to myself, Chaim Dalfin, not bad. You didn't know the page, but you remembered it was in Tractate Pesachim. Now, if you're asking me, how did I remember that it was in Pesachim? Because when I was probably 18 or so, or 17 or 18, 17 I think, there was a competition in yeshiva, and I learned by heart 90 pages of Masechtas Pesachim. Not word for word. But the idea is you could test me on each page, and I knew what it says on the page, and I can tell you the conversation. And I spent hours learning for this, okay? So now it's 40 plus years later, and I don't remember the Gemaras. Unfortunately, the memory doesn't, if you don't review constantly, you forget. And I pretty much forgot, but some things I still remember. And this Gemara stood up, so I didn't know exactly which page. And in fact, Friday when I was searching in the Gemara Friday, I was searching between 48, page 48 to 55. I said it's somewhere here, and I was looking, and I couldn't find it. Now, I'm not a Baki and Shas, and if that rabbi is or he's close to it, he knows much more Shas than I do. But there's certain things you pick up in your youth that stay with you. So I'm just sharing this, off the record, even though it's on Facebook. But off the record, I'm sharing it because when you learn Torah, if you're glued to Torah. Oh, I'm sharing this. No, I'm sharing this to tell you that the bulk of my learning in my youth was Gemara, not Chassidus, Moshe. So it's a fallacy that's been thrown out there that Lubavitchers, they spend their time only learning Chassidus. It's a lie and a fabrication, and I'm proof to that. That's what I wanted to say. Guys, enjoy the day. Enjoy the week. We'll learn tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Amen.
Take care.
Amen.
Take care.
You too. Bye.